Hey, good morning.
Good morning. I'm just going to wait till Ray shows up before we get started.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll give it a couple of minutes to have him get settled. I just grabbed my cup of coffee. Ooh, quick. But yeah, we'll give him just a moment. So I know he's probably got some things like he was packing his bags because he's going on vacation.
Right.
So we're kind of
Just don't start the timer until he shows up.
yeah, no, of course. Yeah.
I know you're a stickler for time.
No, I get you. No, I'm pretty sympathetic to him, but he'll it just give him some breathing room. I think I'll maybe shoot him a DM.
Yeah, he might. I mean, because different time zones, he might.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
we probably should have sent him a message like 5 minutes ago. But how's your morning going so far?
Still busy, still packed. I've got some appointments I got to run to after this. So, but on the off,
There he is.
oh, hello,
Ray, if you could send us a request, we'll get you up here quickly.
and then we'll get started.
I can't believe I wasn't following you, Ray. Oh my gosh, I just followed you. Sorry about that.
Hey, that's all right. I couldn't click the like I had it on reminder, but the space didn't open up to the space, so I had to go find the space by hand.
Yeah, no worries about that. What we'll do is we're gonna go into our usual intro, and then we'll dive into the conversation. Cool, Ray?
Sounds good.
All right, go ahead and kick it off, Jerry.
Well, happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome. As a quick disclaimer, this podcast should not be considered financial advice. The content of this broadcast here and or other platforms are for educational and entertainment purposes only. We cite our own personal opinions. In order to make the best financial decision that suits your needs, please conduct your own research and seek the advice from a licensed financial advisor if necessary. We're starting a new weekly NFT space on Fridays to build bridges to cross-chain NFT communities where ideas can be shared and new partnerships can begin. A special thanks to PSX for pushing the agenda that runs parallel with our current position to facilitate cross-chain collaboration. I want to take that idea and run with the NFT community, whether here, throughout Cosmos, and outside of it. With that, I'll hand it over to PSX leading this conversation.
All right, thanks, Jerry. Just before we begin, I want to do a quick shout out to Vin from the L1 Task Force, who did get me connected with the Bitmost team that's building a bridge, that would bring Bitcoin into Luna Classic. So that conversation is still ongoing, but I'm pretty excited and I'm looking forward to shining some more light on details going further down here in the future. With that, Ray, thanks for coming. I know there's been a lot of controversy since the release of that information. I mean, I'm not even sure where to begin here, but I mean, but maybe just so for the community who's not familiar with who you are, can you give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. I've been in crypto since the Satoshi light paper came out back in 2009, 2010, I believe it was. And then I was in distributed computing before that, and just general technology work. And a couple of years ago, I got back into blockchain and migrated my way after the massive May of 2021 crypto collapse on Ethereum, where it was like $100 or $1,000 a transaction. I started to migrate to Polygon, and then eventually worked my way over here to Terra, and that's where I am now.
So Terra Luna was what before the crash? It was was that your gateway to Cosmos?
Yeah, that was my gateway to Cosmos. I actually knew people and had met people on Polygon, and then as Terra started to take off, people were saying, "Oh, you should go check out Terra. You should check out Terra." I had no idea what the Cosmos was or what IBC or blockchain with the interchain, I should say, was at all at that time.
Interchain being like that was a new the whole is Interchain just real quick, is Interchain unique to Cosmos? This is not something I hear in other communities.
Well, I think it has to do with the branding and the ideas behind the way Cosmos was designed and the way IBC was created um, and the technology, so that it essentially interchain is the shorthand for Internet of Blockchains. And the intention, I believe, with the Cosmos was that there was an app chain thesis, and that essentially, rather than scale up a chain to meet demand, you would actually scale out to multiple chains. And so that was where it became this interchain network. Basically, I know they call them digital nation states and other things, where essentially you have all of these chains interacting and doing exchanges of transactions and commerce with each other in a permissionless way over IBC.
You just said digital nation states. I can only imagine what kind of politics come with it. I'm already seeing it here. I know you and I have had some previous conversation in other spaces, particularly with one of our mutual friends, Gus. And it's always had this political tone, and then being in Luna Classic has been my gateway to the to blockchain community engagement. And I'm seeing the politics up front in my face. So, Jerry, you got a hand up.
Oh, I was just going to mention everybody that's in here. I already seen a couple people do it already. If you could retweet the space, because Ray's going to touch on some topics that are probably going to be very interesting for a majority of the community. So if you could retweet the space, we'd appreciate it. And I think Ray's a very interesting person and has a lot of cool insights on what's currently happening right now in Luna Classic. That's it. PSX, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, and we'll dive into that here momentarily. I just want to try to set up, trying to add some more clarity. The politics of the environment is not unique to Luna Classic, as I'm learning. Am I correct to assume that this has kind of been an issue cross chain?
What specific issue?
Political rivalry.
I think it's natural in a Wild West type space, yeah, where there's essentially no regulation and code is law. People are going to set up their factions and try to, gain territory.
Okay, so that's gonna really redirect me into what we've been observing from a distance. The USTC information that you released to me 2 weeks prior before. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't even. I had my speculations on where it was go if I was to put it out there, but I mean, typically that's not something I want to get involved directly in, even though I appreciate your sense of trust in me. But I do have to ask, why Vegas? What was your thought process behind? Yeah, what was your thought process behind that?
I wasn't actually involved in that initial contact, but I believe that the reason was that we were trying to find someone in the Luna Classic community that had contacts with Binance, and like I said, I wasn't involved with a specific engagement at the beginning, so I don't know who referred who to Vegas, but it was I guess other people that were looking into the Risk Harbor issue were told that Vegas had contacts at Binance, and he did, and we were able to contact people at Binance regarding the issue. So from that aspect, I mean, that was why he was involved.
I see. I mean, now that I think about it, I should have maybe, if that was the underlying reason, as far as someone having contact with Binance, I would have referred you out to Redline Drift from a professional standpoint, because I don't know at what scope Vegas Vegas's plays or his role. I don't even know what he does other than tweet with a massive audience. Um, so I think that's, now that I think about it, that's kind of what what I should have what I should have what I should have done was defer you over to him, over to Redline. But then again, at the time, that I wasn't really sure what questions I should have asked, because it was. I'll be honest with you, when you lay out these information in front of me, it's a lot to take in, and you'll have to forgive me. I am a bit of a pleb.
That's all right. I mean, we ended up, after we got in contact with Binance, and this isn't anything against Vegas, we ended up trying to vet the actual person that we were put in contact with, because we definitely didn't want to go down the road of, engaging with somebody who wasn't actually at Binance and providing information to somebody who could use that to manipulate politics or do other activities, being made aware of these assets. So when we actually started looking into the person that Vegas referred us to, we did find there was legitimate evidence that they worked at Binance in the security role. So, I mean, the information he provided was accurate.
Okay, so all right, so I mean, so did you have to go through Vegas, or you didn't? I mean, it sounds like you didn't have to go through Vegas. There were other channels, lines of communications. You just didn't know what they were, or
Yeah, I think it was essentially, I mean, I'd been involved in spaces before, and if you go back to previous spaces, I don't think you were in them. Back in May, I brought up to other groups of people in Luna Classic that, hey, these funds were out there, and that we think that this 200 million USTC was taken off chain. And it was just very difficult actually finding anybody who could do anything about it. So we had already reached out to multiple people, and excuse me, like you mentioned, I ended up reaching out to you as well. And it's like, there really wasn't there. It's so, what do you want to call it? Decentralized or chaotic in Luna Classic.
I don't know. I wouldn't treat those two words as mutually exclusive.
Yeah, well, it essentially was, we tried to reach out to multiple different groups, and we hadn't been able to find anyone who was able to kind of get a handle on it. And the intention was to publish information before this actually came out to the entire community. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit, but I've been working on this for over 3 months now. And as I was working for the last 2 weeks to try to get a concise, comprehensive, article out about what actually has happened, where this came from, like, I keep finding more and more pieces now, and it's leading into other facets of the ecosystem. So I'm trying to keep this contained and communicate the situation clearly, and hopefully we can do that, in this space today. But there definitely, it is still an evolving thing. I don't know if people have seen what's going on with the validator set on Terra 2, but there's brand new validators appearing in the top 10 with millions of Luna delegated to them. And I'm starting to see that there may be some engagement with some of these wallets as well. So I'm just sorting that out right now.
There's been there was a bit, there seemed like there was a tweet. I couldn't find it for some odd reason. A tweet that you reposted, and it was in regards to it seemed like there was a dispute. I'm not sure if you recall. There seemed like there was a dispute between Alex and Vegas, some type of miscommunication or misunderstanding of what should be done, should have been done with the USTC, whether it be bring it back to the community pool or burn it. I mean, I don't have any real positions. I know one of my friends, LUNC Lever, even brought it up to me, and it's just, whether the community votes to burn it, destroy it, or bring it back to the community pool, I'm pretty indifferent about it. It's just, and I'll be honest with the general public, like, it's a lot to take in. I've heard multiple sides. I don't even have an opinion still today. I'd like to I'd like to see what we can do to help resolve the situation. But do you recall that tweet that you reposted regarding the dispute between Vegas and Alex? I'm not sure if that rings a bell.
Yeah, I don't think it was a dispute between them necessarily. The issue was, as I recall, and why I retweeted or replied to that is essentially we can get into the nuts and bolts of this, but basically the people who are in control of the 800 million 800 million USTC right now in a multi-sig, those people aren't your enemy. Those people are custodians of those funds on behalf of the chain. And so there was this conflation, and it was just a misunderstanding, I think, that those 800 million USTC in a multi-sig are controlled by the same entity that moved the funds off chain, and that's just not true. So the issue that's going on right now, and this is why we really didn't want, from when I'm saying we, I mean those of us who found these funds realized what was going on and wanted to communicate to the Luna Classic community. We didn't want this to get out and in front of everybody without a clear amount of information available. And because basically what needs to happen is the Luna Classic community has to come together in one unified proposal to instruct the multi-sig signers on what to do. If there are multiple proposals, I explained this off chain to somebody, and this is my analogy, right? If you're a passenger on a bus, right, and you have a bunch of people on a bus and you're voting on where the conductor is going to drive. First, let's say you guys vote and say, let's turn left. And then before the driver turns left, before that vote is even finished, somebody says, well, I think we should turn right. And then you vote on turning right. And both the turn left and the turn right proposals pass. What does the driver do? And that is the situation that the multi-sig signers are in right now. People have told them to send it to the community pool. People have said to burn it. And I'm not going to get involved in governance, but I understand, there needs to be unity and there needs to be a proposal that explicitly says what is supposed to be done, and then no more proposals.
Regarding that final statement that you just made, that's where it gets really tricky. We have two groups, two individuals. Both are highly influential within the community. Both have, I guess, if you want to call merit behind their views and where they stand. What would have been more of the more productive approach? Like step one, could we bring it back to the community? Step two, then consider either destroying it or nuking it from orbit, as Alex as well puts it. Like, what are your recommendations based on that? From someone who's, from our neighboring chain, Juno, looking inside into the Luna Classic, what would be the more appropriate approach?
Well, I would say I'm actually from your neighboring, your offspring Terra too. I'm not from Juno. I do get around, and this isn't interchain, so you can have homes in multiple nation states, right? So, but I would say that I'm not going to get involved in that, and I don't want to be involved in Luna Classic governance. So, I'm not going to give a recommendation on that.
I understand. Despite with so many misunderstanding of what happened, Risk Harbor. I mean, that's kind of a. I mean, I know you and I, we've had some of these conversations previously. I mean, there was something that was going on with Risk Harbor where they managed to accumulate Luna. Now they have USTC as just now everybody's finding out. Can you explain, like, what are they? I mean, in the simplest terms, I mean, they're an insurance company. Anything else beyond that? How do they become to be? Who are the backers? Like, go down the list if you can. Everything.
Well, we'll try to keep it. I'll try to keep it succinct, and then I'll leave more space to ask questions. Basically, I'm not sure exactly where they came from. But in November of 2021, so this is well before the crash, as Terra was getting pretty big, there was an insurance fund called Ozone, and I believe that was created by TFL, or that was created by Terra. I think it was created by TFL, is what I believe anyway. And basically, that ended up needing or wanting to be, Doe wanted to hand it off. There's a proposal text that has been published in Threads. You can read the initial proposal, and you can still search on Twitter and search Risk Harbor Ozone and or on news articles, and you'll find that about November 2021, Terra decided to hand off Ozone, which was the internal insurance platform for Anchor, and hand that off to be managed and run by Risk Harbor. Doe was also an investor in Risk Harbor. And essentially, Risk Harbor took over the Ozone protocol, which was going to be insuring assets on Terra. Well, everything, we had a $50 billion market cap, or whatever it was, $30 billion market cap. And so essentially what happened in March of 2022, I believe it was March, is that there was a proposal put up to say, hey, we need to get some community pool funds to basically provide some backing and underwriting to the amount of funds that are being stored into Anchor and then possibly other protocols. This proposal was deleted, I believe, by the author, who is a contributor to Risk Harbor. We haven't got any confirmation on that, other than that you cannot see the proposal anymore because it was scrubbed. But we were able to get an archived copy of it, and that's available on the internet and on Twitter. And basically, this proposal said, and Doe backed this proposal, it said give $1 billion, essentially, 1 billion UST pre-crash to this multisig, and this multisig will hold it to be used for underwriting activities for Anchor and other protocols. And then essentially in March, and I'm sorry, maybe the proposal came earlier than March, but in March, I believe the funds were moved, $200 million was moved into a contract on Terra, which is now Terra Classic. And those $200 million were going to be used to do Anchor underwriting. And essentially, the other $800 million stayed in that multisig, which they're still in there today. And after Terra collapsed, or after UST depegged in July of 2022, the same account that created the underwriting contract withdrew the $200 million worth of USTC. I'm sorry, the 200 million USTC, which was at that point in time worth about $7 million US dollars. And it proceeded to send a portion of them to KuCoin and the other portion, the majority of it, to Binance. And I scoured up and down. There's no mention of what was going on here. We're moving funds. Nobody seemed to have caught that was going on. And then what happened later, so I'm just getting everybody caught up. If this is too much, feel free to jump in. But what happened, fast forward 1 year in 2023, basically, well, let's go back, to 2022. So when Terra 2 Genesis happened, because of the way Terra 2 is created, and because of the instantiation of contracts like everybody maybe understands multi-sig, so you have more than one person is a member of a contract that can hold funds and release funds. Well, there was no way to move funds when Terra 2 did its distribution at Genesis. There was no way to move funds from the initial contracts on Terra, which is Terra Classic now, to Terra 2. So what happened was all the multi-sigs on Terra 2, or all the multi-sigs, sorry, on Terra 1, I may be getting people confused here.
Take your time.
When Terra 2 was created, the people who could sign on those multi-sigs, the members of the multi-sigs that held funds, received an airdrop distribution proportionate to the funds that were held in the multi-sig. So what that means is all of the custodians that were guarding that 1 billion USTC received an airdrop to their wallets that they signed with a portion of the new Luna token on Terra 2. And that wasn't, I mean, there was no other way around the way it was designed. So they weren't supposed to keep those funds. And so what they did, or what they were asked to do, was send those funds to a new multi-sig, and so they could be returned to the community pool on Terra 2. This is a lot of backstory. There's some of this is still open. There's a guy named Jimmy. I believe in January of 2023, TFL put out a tweet talking about how Jimmy had not returned the funds. These were community pool funds, if anybody's familiar with that story. So what happened here was that basically all these funds that were originating from that 1 billion USTC on Terra Classic and then became deposited into the signers on Terra 2, those funds were to be returned to the community pool. So this is where everything ties in here. So all these funds have been gathered up. They've been prepared to be deposited into the community pool on Terra 2 because they're community funds. And then something strange happened. The funds got redirected to Risk Harbor and didn't end up in the community pool, even though there's a lot of public evidence from TFL and community members saying these are community pool funds. Everybody had agreed. And so when that happened, one of the Terra community members, Mike, noticed that Risk Harbor had upgraded this contract that received these funds that were community pool funds and were able to withdraw funds that they did not deposit and then take those funds off to OKX and Binance. And they got called out for doing this, saying, what are you doing? Why do you even have these funds? And why are you sending them off chain? And they said, well, we're going to do some insurance pools for algorithmic stablecoins, which there weren't any, and there still aren't any. And so people on Terra 2 got upset about this, and there was a big back and forth, and this was around April of this year, 2023. And what happened at that time was some of us started to say, well, this is really weird, suspicious behavior. I wonder what happened with Risk Harbor on Terra Classic. And when we started looking back at Terra Classic and the contracts, we found that they were all attacked. They'd all been attacked as of like the same time that Risk Harbor had been publicly called out for moving these funds around. Something had started, some bots had started spamming transactions to bury any activity on the Risk Harbor contracts on Terra Classic. So we spent days going through all of tens of thousands of transactions and sorting out and finding that they'd actually taken 200, we found the original contract, we found that they had taken 200 million USTC out of the contract and send it off to Binance and KuCoin. And I can take a breath here in a moment, but so essentially we'd already seen this behavior on Terra 2 and we got it resolved. After a long negotiation, they returned the funds and then said, we're leaving Terra forever. And then we were able to trace back these other funds. And so that's, basically where we're at today is, hey, you guys on Terra Classic have essentially 800 million USTC sitting in a multi-sig that you should be able to unlock through governance action and have the multi-sig signers return that, or to do whatever you want with it. And then there's the state of the missing 200 million USTC yet.
I've got a quick request, but before I do make that request, Jerry, you got a question?
No, just if somebody has a question, if you use the chat on the bottom right, that's where I'm going to see it first. If you DM me, I'm going to still try to check my DMs. Vegas notified me that a proposal, instruction proposal, is up on the governance right now, just as an information piece. But go ahead, PSX.
Okay, yeah. Vegas, I'm denying your request. By the way, this is a podcast platform. We don't allow anybody to come up.
He knows.
Yeah, okay. All right. Let's see. Real quick, you mentioned Jimmy before. He tweeted something. I can't remember what it was. Is there a way we can get his Twitter handle? Maybe we can reach out to him.
I think if you look up, TFL's Twitter account and community pool, I think you'll find the thread from January of 2023 that has his handle in it. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
No worries. And then the second, for clarity, there were claims that with this narrative, Risk Harbor made a claim that they were moving funds off chain for the sake of algorithmic stablecoin. Was that is it safe to assume that was a blatant lie? If that was not since that wasn't what appears to be not the case, it would. Have you been able to pinpoint like what the real motive was as far as moving those funds off chain?
I try to stay pretty objective, I know a lot of people would probably say I'm not, but I try not to do any assumptions. I can just say that I asked them directly. I checked. I asked around. I asked TFL. Nobody is aware of any algorithmic stablecoins that exist in the ecosystem at this time that were developed on Terra.
Right. So let's assume that there is an algorithmic stablecoin. How about an update?
Yeah, I don't think there are any. And I mean, and just to give perspective, there was plenty of liquidity on Astroport on Terra. If the intention was to swap those funds, which they did, they swapped them for USDC. If the intention was to swap those funds, they could have done that on chain on Astroport. They had over $10 million, I think, or $8 million in liquidity at the time. And it was 200,000 Luna transactions. So there was plenty of liquidity to handle those transactions. There was no reason to take those offline. And there was especially no reason to send 100,000 to OKX and another 100,000 to Binance, to send it to separate exchanges. And there is a Twitter thread from Mike about this. I posted this, I think, under Alex's post, and I posted it a couple different places, but I have just a basic link to the Mike thread that goes through all the stuff that happened on Terra 2. And basically, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask you, do you have those links on hand? Maybe we can nest those for the general public to see, so they have something to refer back to.
Yeah, I'll find them as we're talking here and post them.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Did you have another
question? No, that was it. But I'm going to have more questions as we continue.
So I've been kind of like building up this massive Twitter thread or Medium article or whatever it'll be to explain all these pieces, because as I pull at threads, I find more things. And I wanted to make sure before I came on here that I was 100% sure before I made any statement on this. And I am sure, and I have the transactions. So I know I'm confident in saying that the same Binance account that the funds on Terra Classic went off chain to, which I can read out loud if you don't have it handy here. I can pull it up. But the same Terra Classic, the same Binance account that the Terra Classic funds went to is also a Binance account that was used in the emergency, if everybody remembers the emergency allocations that were issued on Terra 2 for projects that came over. Risk Harbor received an emergency allocation, and the transactions, the wallets that which they were sent these emergency allocations, verified by TFL, because they sent them to the legitimate wallet of the project that was receiving this allocation. They used the same Binance memo in at least 2 of their transactions, and there may be a couple more. So we have concrete evidence that that whatever is said, that the same Binance account was used to move the funds off Terra 2 for the emergency allocation, that was also used to move the funds off Terra Classic, extracted from the community pool's 200 million USDC.
Jerry?
Yeah, I mean, you retweeted something from Alex Forshaw in reference to the 200 million about somebody named Ralph Ben Har, I believe. How is that related? And I don't know if you can talk about that, but I read that and it's a little bit confusing for me. I mean, I understand what is put out there, but you retweeted it, so I'm thinking it's relevant.
I would have to see the specific tweet, but Ralph is the founder of Risk Harbor.
It says contributor on his LinkedIn.
Yeah, he changed that.
Oh, Jerry, can you post? Do you have that tweet you can nest for reference?
Yeah, I'll put it up there.
Yeah, essentially they're just the founders, and we've tried contacting them, and I've never seen any communication with him since the incident on Terra 2 started. I don't know that we necessarily need to dig into that, or that I'm really qualified to say a lot about that. I just know I've contacted the team personally. I've reached out to them on Twitter. I've sent them public messages on Telegram, yeah. And the only response I received was from Max, who was the head of research. And he told me to reach out to somebody who was still at Risk Harbor to get a statement, because he had resigned from, or had taken a different position and was no longer with Risk Harbor.
Do you know what the current state of Risk Harbor is at this current moment? I mean, we still have 800 USDC that is supposedly property of the Luna Classic community, and then we have 200 USDC that's unaccounted for. Any thoughts for
200 million?
Yeah, it's 200 million. That
1 billion in total. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yep. No, so the 800 million, just to be clear, again, I'll repeat this. I know we talked about this a little bit ago. The 800 million is not in control of Risk Harbor. It is in control of the multi-sig that is made up of community members. And their mandate is to follow governance action. So that is, I can't speak on that. I'm not them, but I can say that they are not Risk Harbor, and I would urge everyone to treat them with kindness and respect, because they are the people who can return these funds and have nothing to do with the other funds.
Okay, so it almost seems like, at least from my view, my vantage point, it seems like there's been some multiple, I don't know if personal attack is the right way to paraphrase it, but on these multi-sigs, because I don't know anything about these guys. But I'm not quite sure if some of these personal attacks or these tweets, as I'll say, is even justified. Where do you think? It feels like there's been so much disconnect that and misunderstanding that too many individuals within the community tend to get ahead of themselves rather than take a step back and find a more productive approach to where there's an open conversation about it on what to do with the USDC. So since that's the case, I mean, I would have thought like this. I'm starting to. My worry is that this has gotten the situation at its current state has gotten overcomplicated when it shouldn't have been.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I'm sorry that I couldn't do more to not have that happen. I'm not in control of any of this, and we really tried to not be, minimize the destructiveness or the chaos as much as we could, and still try to help the community get those funds back. I think that would just be, again, is my iteration is I'm not going to get involved in governance with this. I just want you to know, I think I would, and this is loose interpretation, but I would look at the multi-sig signers as custodians. They were given those funds, entrusted with a duty and responsibility, which is outlaid in that proposal. And that is their obligation, is to fulfill that duty and responsibility if they are ethical and upstanding, people. And so I don't think I'm just saying generally, I don't think yelling or doing any sort of abusive behavior towards the people on that multi-sig are, there's nothing that you can do that can compel them to release those funds. So I think it's in everybody's best interest to try to cooperate and collaborate and get those funds back if that's what you want to do.
Jerry, you've got a question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to everything, and it just occurred to me that the 200 million that's missing is if that's something that the community wants to pursue, it's probably going to have to be taken from a different avenue, because it sounds like what you're saying is the multi-sig custodians are not related to that portion of it, because you explained it clearly. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have. I will say one thing about it, but they have nothing. That multi-sig has nothing to do with where those funds are or retrieving those funds at all. I would look at them as two separate issues, and that's not. That's my best unprofessional advice.
My unprofessional take is it's just a massive shit show. that's neither here nor there. The going back to the original debate of where the 800, what should be done with the 800 USDC, and then you made a really good analogy with two sides voting to either turn the wheel left or right. It almost seems like this train is about to split right down the middle. I mean, Jerry and I, we stay out of government just because of the political, the current political climate in the community. I don't know. It'll be like another month or so before anything gets done.
It's not really our place to influence anybody, because, I mean, at the end of the day, whether we have an opinion or not, we can't force our opinion on the community. They have to kind of decide for themselves, right? But yeah, I don't know. It'd be nice to get it back. And Ray, diligently got this information together. So yeah, I mean, moving forward, PSX, I mean, there is a prop up right now. I know that, but that's all I know at the moment.
Okay. And then Ray, do you think with all this, because I know like you're going to be finding something tomorrow, next week, next month, there's always going to be something. I swear to God, it's a Game of Thrones on this chain and every chain. But do you have any plans on this, as far as like reconsolidating all the information that you have? I mean, I know you shot quite a bit toward me, and even again, low IQ here. All right, nowhere close to your level of genius. Is there a way you can reconsolidate all that information, maybe into like a Medium article of some sort, to where it might be easier digestible for someone who's within my demographics can easily digest?
Yeah, that's what I'm working on. I think I would be lying if I wouldn't say I'm where I would normally do double check things and feel like, oh yeah, I have all the information correct. With the ferocity of the Luna Classic community, I have been like painstakingly making sure that I am not using a syllable that is out of space, because I do not want to be or have any feelings of being responsible for sending people in a direction that was not my intention or that has nothing to do with what I said. So with the response and with watching a lot of this activity on Luna Classic, I've just been going back through and trying to do what you said, which is essentially make this very straightforward, take no sides, provide the information in a way that anybody should be able to use the information as it's laid out to walk themselves through what happened with transactions. I absolutely, and this has been part of the work, is there's a lot of this information has been deleted and purged. Whether that's intentional or unintentional, there's a lot of missing data, which I've been going back out and collecting, not only from screenshots, but actually the source is still available on the internet. And I just want to make sure that this is very clear. The information I provide is, done so in a responsible way and tries to, I'm not telling people how to think, but I want to give people the information to fully form some ideas about what's gone on and what's involved here.
With certain information's being purged that you mentioned, I mean, what questions would you ask to help bridge that gap to make it all make more sense?
Well, I think it all makes sense at this point. I think it's pretty clear that if the same Binance account was used to receive funds in an official capacity on Terra 2 as Risk Harbor, they were paid out directly from the emergency allocation, and those funds that were paid from the Terra 2 Genesis emergency allocation for building teams that were paid to Risk Harbor went to the same Binance account that the 200 million from Terra Classic went to. I think it's pretty clear that it's the same actor, or they're related, or they're affiliated, right? I mean, I could post just that. On top of that, something that's very interesting is the admin account that created the contracts on Terra Classic for Risk Harbor, the UT8, I believe it is. I'll have to look up specifically what it is, but that same address is on the multi-sig in Terra 2. So that same address is on both multi-sigs, for the recovery of the assets on Terra 2 and for the dispensation of the assets on Terra 1. And that wallet is affiliated with the transactions to Binance. So there are people in this ecosystem that absolutely, if only by process of elimination, know who this person is, period.
Well, I was like, that's a bit of a mind fuck right now. Real quick, because I know we're running out of time here. Because I've looked on Risk Harbor's website. I mean, at surface value, I mean, it's an insurance company for blockchain or crypto or in general. Am I understanding that correctly? That underrates insurance basically, but I almost feel like, based on these conversations and previous conversations, and then I feel like I'm going down another rabbit hole.
Yeah, I would say there's sufficient evidence to show on both their behavior on Terra 2, if this is them, which my belief is that it is them. They've withdrawn funds that they did not deposit into insurance contracts on both Terra Classic and Terra 2. And these insurance contracts are not open source. They have been audited, but nobody has seen them outside of Risk Harbor and the auditors. They are not public. So I would advise people, and this is my opinion, to not put funds into closed source insurance contracts that nobody can audit other than the auditors. And just one more thing with that is I believe, and I have evidence, but I can't say for certain because we don't have all the evidence, but I believe that these back doors that they put in to withdraw everyone's funds were put in after the audits.
Jerry, do you know what the status is on the original prop that was put up about bringing the USTC back to the community pool? I
I
haven't
can check.
really, yeah, I haven't followed up with it because it's like
Well,
I
there's
actually got.
all I know is there's a current one that's up. That's all I know. I can look. Is there a discrepancy with how the proposals might be written as to creating a clear instruction for the multi-sig? Is that the problem, Ray? I like that kind of confuses me.
I guess I would say I'm not involved with any of that, but I think that would be a legitimate question to ask, and it probably could be asked of the multi-sig signers, but I'm not involved with that.
PSX, are you in your DMs right now or something?
Sorry, I was actually I've got my partners reaching out to me like we got to wrap this up ASAP because I do have to. I got a jet for an appointment. Let's see. Did you? Let's see. And I do apologize. Right. Thank you again. Do you have any like last talking points? Because we were going to have to follow up for a part two. There's a lot of things that and this is probably more than likely going to revolve around that Medium article. I don't. Do you anticipate like when you'll put that out?
I'm trying to get it out, but I have other commitments, and
Sure.
like I said, the way this is blown up on Luna with Terra Classic with LUNC, it's just been I want to be extra careful about what I put and make sure that it's absolutely clear and as objective as possible, and there's no innuendo in it.
Okay. Here's an idea. Maybe we can just, Jerry, if you want to weigh in on this one, like, maybe we can pick out like maybe a couple of volunteers or something within the community, for like revisions, just, and we can take a look at it, just to give input. I don't know
You're
what
talking
you
about for
think
the
about.
proposal?
No, for Ray's article, kind of just, there's like,
Sure. I
I
mean,
don't
I
know.
think Alex would have an opinion on it,
Okay.
for sure. And Ray interacts with him on Twitter. I can see if there's something specific to put in there. I think the community is super concerned about the 200 million. I know that has nothing to do with the multi-sig, but I think they're very curious about those funds. So, and I know that's going to be a part of it, Ray. So I think that's what you're talking about when you have it clear and concise, so that everybody can understand what's going on. But yeah, I'll try to get some feedback for that and see what the questions are, and that might help guide you. But yeah, keeping it objective is could be challenging depending on what the information shows.
Yeah, I think just to give closure on that too is I'm happy to answer questions, or I think there's enough information out there that I've shared. I put it in the nest here as well. You can see where those funds go. I'll put up the additional information to show how those funds are associated with Terra 2. I just wanted to be absolutely sure because I've been working on this for so long that some things get a little blurry and I'm putting it down and validating it all. So I can say that the the Binance accounts are linked. And so I think once you have that, you have a pretty clear picture that the same accounts that Risk Harbor used on Terra 2 sent to these accounts that off-chained the funds. So yeah, I think it's pretty clear at this point. I don't think it's going to take people too much information. I think what would be nice if there were a couple people in the community that felt like they were, technically competent and could read the blockchain, if they wanted to just receive this information, because it's always good to have multiple people verifying it. I know what I've verified, but don't trust me, like go to the chain and verify this yourselves.
Go ahead, Jerry.
So, is there an indication of this, or any reason why Risk Harbor or Ozone would have taken this money off chain? Is there a legitimate reason, or is this just up in the air? We don't really know the purpose of it. I mean, we can speculate, but I don't like to speculate about that.
And I'm in the same thing. It's like I won't speculate on it. I can't find any communications in any way, shape, or form of those funds being announced to be moved.
All right, and then we're going to wrap this space up. For anybody, give my friend Ray Raspberry a follow. I'm sure he's going to put up more tweets, pending updates. Good guy, great guy. His IQ makes me look like make me go full retard quite often than I can count. So, Ray, thanks again for coming on, and we'll keep the community updated for part 2 of this epic shit show of Game of LUNC. So we'll try to make it a little bit more lighthearted and not so conspiratorial. Other than that, thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate you guys coming out, hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to thank everybody for coming and listening to this part. We are going to do a part 2 because this topic is actually, we haven't even gone into the full details of everything. So part 2 might include a roundtable, correct, PSX?
Might loosely, okay. depending on where this conversation goes. But I worry that roundtable might take us down another rabbit hole we don't want to go down to. But let me think on that one for just a little bit. Give me some time on that one before we decide to pursue production on that one.
Gotcha. Okay, I want to make everyone aware, if you're into NFTs, we're doing a cross-collaboration space every Friday. People that have their own projects can shill their projects that come in there as well. So Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard or Central Daylight time. And that's going to happen on Fridays, every Friday. So we have Ethereum people, we have Luna Classic people there, and potentially Luna 2.0, White Whale, and things like that. Also want to mention that Luna V-Shape, which is now Vendetta on Twitter, and myself have made a deal, a partnership with Backbone Labs, and we are doing something, and we'll get more information about that specific partnership in the future. We can't really reveal anything yet because they haven't launched yet, so we can't open our mouths about anything at the moment. But once everything is clear, we'll get that information out to you and what that looks like. Thank everybody for coming in and listening today. And we do have a part 2 coming up on this specific conversation. And we also have an NFT artist coming soon. And PSX, is that going to be scheduled Saturday, or we don't know yet?
We're gonna stick with Saturday until something changes.
So we'll tweet about it, and that'll be clear once the official tweet's out. That'll be the actual schedule. So right now it's not. It's tentatively scheduled for Saturday, but it might be pushed to another day. We'll get that information out to you guys. Thanks for coming. PSX, do you have any last words?
No, that's it.
All right, take care, everybody. Ray, thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.